in-between is a time for being. And I know millions of teachers have talked about just being, but now guess what, folks? We really get to do that and find that there's so much inside here and get rid of the toxic thoughts and the toxicity that dwells within each of us and see our light shine.
I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. Today's talk is the in-between, and I'm here with two good friends, someone who I've known forever, Tricia Van Klanveren, and someone who I feel like I've known forever, Catherine Weissenberg. And we're going to be talking about the current state from a spiritual perspective, spiritual, economic, political perspective. And I met Tricia years ago at the Ramtha School, and we are very trained in different spiritual knowledge. And Catherine is an incredible, I would call her a psychic, tuning in, ability to communicate with other realms. So, Tricia has a bunch of questions, but Catherine, you have anything to say about, from a psychic kind of intuitive sense, what we're going through now as a planet, as a civilization? What's your sense?
Well, these are unprecedented times, of course. And, my work, I'm able to connect with different realms, deceased people, God, source, energy, people in comas, you name it. And so what I'm getting from God, and I use that term, you could substitute love, whatever, Buddha, consciousness, higher power, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, the vernacular, is that this is being called the in-between. And so the in-between is, of course, where we are, right? We were at a place where we knew reality. We, not as in the KNEW, not new reality, although we are faced with new realities. Right. And realities are changing moment to moment. So all reality, even the way that is flowing out, is always, we're always greeted with a new reality because we're completely in flow, and the linear mind, how it used to hold and construct reality in its safe little box called the mind, has been blown apart. And the mind is just dog paddling to keep up with that because it, well, I won't launch off into the mind and what okay. It always needs a job. It always wants to be employed.
I'll just ask one more question, and Tricia can jump in. Your guys called it the in-between. What are we in between? What's on the other side? We know where we came from. Now, where are we going?
Well, and I think that the where we're going is why we're in between. We're not because we're in between. If we knew where we were going, we would say head that way, right? Or the arrival point, or destiny, or fate. And I think from what I'm connecting with, there is no fate. There is no fate. Why it is the in-between is there is no fate that's predestined, which allows us to take all the wisdom teachings and guides and our own individual intuitions of where we think we're headed. There's room enough for all of that. And the in-between is spacious enough to hold our own individual construction of that, because guess what? We're moment to moment individually constructing that, our unified field of energy. And so it's big enough. So, where are we heading is the old way that the mind likes to construct. Give me the destination point, give me the goal, and I'll figure out how to drive us there. And that's not going to work anymore.
We can't figure this one out with our mind.
Game's over. That old way of doing it is flattened, right? We're trying to flatten the curve. Well, the brain, the mind, the construction of reality as we know it is gasping for air because it doesn't know how to breathe this new reality.
Catherine, do you mind if I just ask you a few kind of mundane questions?
Sure, try. Go ahead.
So is the virus as contagious as they are saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But
Is
it's
it as
dangerous.
is it non-lethal for the vast majority of people?
I think that remains to be seen. That's unseen. I mean, just as we're evolving, that virus is evolving. It's
And
not as, we're not fixed and it's not fixed. And so we're trying to grab a hold of it and put it in a tiny box that says, we understand you. And that, again, just like we're being blown apart. I mean, not that it's mutating where it's going to kill everybody and cause mass extinction. But again, we're trying to put a frame around something so we can feel comfortable, even understanding the virus, which I get. I mean, I get that we need to do that. We're human beings. We want to know where ground is. So
why are they shutting down the global economies? Do you have any sense that there's something else going on other than the obvious?
I haven't asked about that, but I would say why shutting, because what happens is when you shut everything down, you have a reset. We had a lot of trouble trying to get me at the right angle and get on this call. And so I had to call in the big gun, the husband, the techno man, to help salvage the expert. And basically what he said is we have to shut it all down. And so we know that in a lot of other areas in our life, that we just shut down. We get sick, we shut down, we unplug. So I don't know, but I know that that is the reality of what's happening now. And this whole idea, I mean, it bleeds into something else, is that we think everything is purposeful. So we have this rubric, again, this baby right here, Mr. In Charge or Miss In Charge, or, being in charge, that says it has to be purposeful. I have to understand it and I have to define it and I have to ascribe meaning, or something is radically wrong. And I am not underestimating something. I'm not saying nothing it is all radically wrong right now. But that even the purpose or what's, I think we ask the question of, all in the rubric of, if I have a larger context for this, then it makes sense to me. And sometimes, and we know in our personal relationships, haven't you tried to import some sort of framework to make sense for why you should stay in a relationship that's not working? Or, we do this as human beings, and then finally we go, okay, I'm done. I'm not seeing that person anymore. Time out. It's over. So we know the time out. We know that the only way sometimes to get perspective is to take distance, be it social distance, physical distance. And we do that in our own personal lives in handling relationships and uncertainty. We don't jump in to make a decision because we're going to take time to contemplate it. And so the economy and the virus and all of that, I don't know that there is an answer about that yet. That's why it's in between, because you and I and all of us are forming that answer moment to moment. We're all contributing to what that answer is, not being manipulated by some other beings that are coming to, but I mean, that's okay. And there's room enough for all those ideologies, whatever gives people peace and comfort. But the truth is, like our lives, we're constructing them and our reality always. It is always a flow.
So when we were speaking earlier, you mentioned that we were saying how Alan was at the epicenter because he's in New York, and you said we're all at the epicenter. We're all at ground zero. You want to say more about that?
Sure. So I think we, yes, numbers wise, I'm on the West Coast. Yeah. you know, when you said, Alan said, I said, where are you, Alan? Where in the world are you? He said, I'm at the epicenter. But we all are the epicenter because this is hitting us personally. This is an opportunity. This is a place where we can hold, we are the ground of our experience, and we are the ground of creating what is going to be our reality. And now this virus has come and it's taught us that we're very interrelated. You wanted an example of how related we are? Look at what this virus is. Human to human, right? We can't just say, oh, you know, that's not my problem. That's somebody else's. Oh, I don't know them. I don't care about my next door neighbor. I mean, we still can do those kinds of behaviors. But the truth is, and the planet said, hey, I saw some meme or something and it said, you know, Mother Earth, you know, we never thought we could test climate change or whatever. And, you know, the whole thing could never shut down. And the answer is Mother Earth said, you know, here, hold my beer, you know, because of course that's what's happening when we're not driving. When would we ever see those things? So we're all epicenters, and we all are all, and I encourage us to take personal responsibility to stay at home, not to infect, to follow the guidelines as they are, because my behavior is going to affect you. And guess what? Maybe that's always been true. We have a energy field consciousness. We are all connected. We are all one. And that was like a kumbaya, lovely thought. But now we see right now, no, that's true. I can go to the grocery store and unknowingly infect someone behind me because I feel fine. And then they can go home and give it to their family or whatever. I'm not trying to get on a soapbox about that.
No.
So we're all epicenter.
No, I think, well, just picking up on that, and then we'll continue because I know Tricia has more. But we're epicenter in the sense that this is so personal, and yet it's so collective at the same time. It's such a strange dichotomy and paradox, yet it makes sense how, I mean, it's a new way of thinking about the personal and the global at the same time being the same thing.
Individually and collectively, we're in the strata.
Yeah.
We are moving up and down that flow. We, at all times, even in our ability to reach out to people and be kind and generous, we have more impact. You know, I did a radio interview for our book yesterday, and my co-author, she was like, and I said, oh my God. She was like, I said, you know, afterwards I was like, whoa, you just been along way too much, you know. But we see the value of connection, right? We see, you know, and that inward journey, which affects the whole. So we're the epicenters. We're the epicenters of our reality. And what we do in our epicenter and what we do in our little piece connects to the whole. And it has import. Even if we're sitting at home in our own homes, we're affecting the field.
It's always been this way is the revelation of it.
Right. So now we got the demonstration, you know.
Okay.
Now the ante's up. And I don't think that it was like we had to be punished or some great thing said, no, this is the only way you stupid humans will learn. It's just what it is, the in-between.
Right.
And we get to decide in the ways we can decide in our sphere, which is connected to all spheres. What is my in-between going to be? Not what am I going to do and where am I going, but what am I doing and how am I going to be present and show up in this in-between.
Okay.
So you do have this amazing ability to connect to these other dimensional realms. Have you checked in to these other realms? Is there anything coming that's something that you haven't said already?
You know, not in the way that I do it, because my Catherine, is wanting to have this experience because in a way I don't want to know if it's going to freak me out. Like in a way, I mean, and I think think that that's why it's being called the in-between. And I haven't asked questions like, how long is this going to last? How long am I going to be on lockdown in California? You know, when is some semblance because I really feel the juice and the power and where we're called to is now. You know, it's like, be present now. Again, another like thing that we've been tossing around for eons, you know, be here now. Well, now we're here because if we can't go outside, we can't go anywhere, you know? So I haven't asked those questions in that way because I believe that this time, as difficult as it is for all of us, is the experience that is going to be the springboard. We're in the Play-Doh. You know, we're kindergartners. We got our finger paints out. We got our smocks on, and the teachers left the building. We're dismissed from school, and we're like, what do we do? But what we paint and how we gather individually and together is going to make the portrait that will come. And so seeing that portrait and trying to put a frame around it, to me, feels like what we've been doing our whole life. That's the old style. Mm-hmm. And we're really getting this opportunity to create something different and to be different and to be more authentic and to realize our power of creation, never laid outside of us. Yeah. Our definitions of self and our roles and who we were and our job and the car we drove and whatever we did, that was all sort of, now it's stay at home for the states that are smart enough to realize that that's a good idea, you know, and the herd will be called because there are people who don't think this is real or whatever. And so they're out there, and hopefully us that are listening and being aware will run into those people because they're creating their consciousness too.
Do you want to ask more about the economy?
Will the economy be flattened? Yes, it will be flattened. I mean, is this serious? Yes, it's very serious. That's not an over dramatization. It is going to impact a lot. It already is. And it's going to last longer than, you know, we're not going to all be back in church by Easter. It's not happening, or whatever, you know, or the end of the month. I mean, some of us will, and we may not live to tell the story about what that experience was. But
do you really think the shutting down of the global economy is worth it?
I just saw something a friend sent me, and it said, is capitalism worth losing lives over?
Well, but the answer has always been yes. Capitalism has always required loss of life on multiple levels.
But this
especially at the bottom, the lower echelons, those people are always sacrificed.
And this is what the hard, difficult aspect of this is. This is the hardest thing, is because it's going to be those people who have always been the ones that had to take the hits that are going to take it. And we're so high and mighty in our, there's inequities, and they're very apparent, and they're becoming more apparent. But guess what? Your health and your ability to contract and recover from this is it, you don't get a shield because you're a certain skin color or certain socioeconomic level. You may be able to shelter in place, but again, that's the great equalizer. You know, this doesn't see. It doesn't see. And granted, I understand in denser like India and different places. I'm not negating the science of how people live, and their ability to have resources will let them protect themselves more in other ways. But and maybe we have always lived like that. I mean, history goes back forever.
Catherine,
it's exploited.
Do you have a sense, not from what you've heard from other people, but from your own knowingness, that the release of the coronavirus was deliberate?
Well, I don't really want anybody knocking on my door. So, but yes, I think that it was strategic. I'll just say that. Yeah, I think it
By
was
who?
strategic.
Who's, and
I
what,
don't know.
what for? What for?
Because, don't we set off bombs in each other's lives all the time? And then we don't have control over them anymore. How many bombs have you set off in your relationship, or I have, right? And we just go, and then we don't realize that we have control over that. Or we think that being the one that can set off the bomb, and I'm not talking terrorism or whatever, but that can that'll have like this little, I just set off a firecracker. I didn't set off nuclear bomb. I just set off a little firecracker. So I think that perhaps, we look who's benefiting by this and who, so yeah, I mean, I do have ideas about that. I do have knowings about that, not as in this is the country that did it, or that is the individual. I don't have those kinds of pieces of information, nor would I want them. But do I think this was strategic? Yeah.
So you think
I think it was,
and it got out of hand? I mean, it just kind of blew up in all our faces?
I think that people don't think things through necessarily. Don't know. And I think when you're dealing with neurotoxins and chemicals, and not that I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but human beings do really go to great lengths in all kinds of ways, interpersonally, organizationally, governmental, globally, to get what they want, because they feel they go to great lengths to do that. And so did some group or whatever go to a great length to say, I really don't like you lording your power over me, so I'm gonna set something off there. It's the same way as gossip. I mean, gossip is so powerful. And look how we all looked at China.
Well, I want to go.
Who was exporting lots of goods to us,
Right.
or whatever, and a world power. I don't know. So
Catherine, do you think this is a real opportunity to change things in a positive way? Or do you think it's just going to get worse?
Oh, I think it's going to get worse. And I think we do have opportunities. And I think that taking people's health and taking people's lives, and we all have people we love. I don't care if you're the biggest, whatever, horrible person, for lack of a better word, you still have someone you love. You still have emotion. You still feel connection and responsibility, maybe to your family, your little family. But yeah, and so when you get hit in that way, and I can tell you that losing your health is a great leveler. Things get really fast, really real, and I think that's what we're seeing now. And loss of who we love is going to be devastating, and maybe in that clearing, like, I live in California and the fires come and, take everything out. There is room and opportunity to say, what are we going to see? What are we going to grow? Maybe those individuals who are not thinking of others, or not altruistic, or not in oneness, or are looking for the savior to come down and save them, they may not be here. And that might give way for other consciousness and other things to rise. I mean, I don't know, but I choose to look at this optimistically, and in my humanity, recognize the sheer horror of it too. It's a both and.
Well, I just want to ask you about that, where you're leading that too, because yes, I never thought capitalism was worth losing lives over. And if we now are in a global system where we realize we're all in it together, maybe we could start to develop the utopian society of sharing the wealth, sharing the abundance, and people won't have to be enslaved to a system of and jobs that they hate and a life they dislike. And it might be, idealistically, the chance to live creatively, for everyone to contribute their creative potential, which is why I think we incarnated in the first place, to make known the unknown.
And what I would say is how many of us run a capitalistic society within ourselves?
What does that mean?
So well, what that means is how many of us play that game with ourselves? How many of us enslave ourselves to our insecurities, if you lose that weight, you'll get to buy that dress. If you or set our whole worth as a human being and worthiness based on what we can produce, generate, and our finance. I'm saying, I get that it's great to think about that utopia society, but the fact is that if we as individuals don't start running our internal capitalistic, social governing, always system, we're microcosms, but we really are the most important ones. So maybe, perhaps, I don't know, that this time is going to be a clarifier for us. What is important? Where is my value? What do I want? Not what do I want to consume or accrue, but who am I and how do I connect? And so when we make those internal shifts or clarifications, then that will get us way down the road to create a society that's more altruistic and where love and kindness and consideration are contagious, not just a virus.
So we need to tell a new story about who we are and about the world we're in and how we're in that world with ourselves and the bigger picture.
Right. And also, again, back to that idea that we shouldn't rush to have a story. That's what I think. We shouldn't rush to have a story because we'll just fall back to our old narratives. We'll go and grab the old plot lines we've been working with for eons. So the in-between gives us time. Although, I mean, and I'm not saying I, Catherine, don't want a story. Believe me, I'm like everybody else, like, what the hell is going on? I'd like to be in my comfort zone. But I think that I can be comforted, and I am comforted by knowing that this is a fertile time for things like you said, creativity, self-contemplation, all those kinds of things that when I'm out grasping for reality in the capitalistic society or in the prove it or in the I'm better than you or whatever it is, when I'm assigning values to every person at all times, and I'm doing it so quickly and subconsciously, unconsciously, that when I go flat, I go, what? Where is the value here, and what's valuable to me? And then the way that we meet and greet those things, that gives us the opportunity to move a society because we have people who are conscious, not unconscious.
Right.
And the kickers and the screamers, they may or not be here, but or they may be going out spreading the disease. I don't know, or the virus. But we already had a virus. It wasn't called Corona, but we were all implanted with a virus. And now we get a chance to be quarantined to look at that virus within us. If we want, it's a personal choice. Why we're all epicenters. But what we choose impacts the whole, because we are all connected.
So, Catherine, say more about that virus. What do you mean about the virus within?
I really haven't thought much about this. Not like I'm saying go within, but I don't sit on a mountain and contemplate this. It's just like, oh, that's really So what I was saying is the virus within is how many of us have operated in defense of not letting people get close to us, or professionally, interpersonally, in our families. But the real virus, the most contagious point of contact, I think, is how we hold ourselves within. Because maybe we don't want to see ourselves, or maybe we wouldn't, we've bought into that other bigger framework that's collapsing right now, right? It's collapsing to define who I am, to tell me who I am and what's my value and what's my worth and what's important to me. I've looked outside to a bigger, it's the matrix. I've looked outside, and that has just, so maybe I've never made real contact with myself, with who I am as a soul or a being, or, maybe I don't need to have a purpose to make me be valuable or worthy or a contributor, or maybe I don't have to go out in the world and prove anything, because all I'm ever trying to prove anything to is myself. Wow. So when I'm in quarantine, maybe I stop looking to those life arresting kinds of things. I'm using the world and my job and my whatever as my breath mask, so I can breathe. And I'm not ever taking a deep breath from my heart and my soul, which are all my highest contact point. So just as we're being flattened, in this time of stay at home, and there's, our touchstones are dismantling. I mean, many of us knew they weren't solid anyway, so it's not a big thing to us. For some of us, we're like, yeah, well, I kind of knew that was like that, but we never thought it was going completely away. Right. And now it's like, well, you thought that, but you didn't take any action about that. You just colluded and all agreed that, this sucks, and I don't agree with it. It's not my value set. It's not how I operate. But what am I to do? I'm just one little tiny person. So, that I'm just a cog in the wheel. And now I think the wheel is us, and we're the center of that. And what we decide to spoke out in reality has power, and it can be a driver, and it can move us to wherever this is going. And I hope that more people choose to do that with love and equanimity and consideration and all those things. And that other, just like the pollution and the ozone and the climate are getting a break, we're getting a break, because we're all toxic too. So we can look at our own toxicity levels and say, in a way that we may never have noticed, what happens when I don't have to breathe this air. I'm just saying that we have the power to self-evolve, and and that there's this opportunity in us to do that, that I think is the opportunity. Because even if we were evolving through robotics, like I said, that doesn't resonate with me, but there's room for all in the in-between. So I'm not saying that's out and this is in. That's old style, right? Not that, yeah, me right, you wrong. But that we are being empowered and clarified, and in this time, to realize that we are evolutionary. Every moment we are evolving and changing, and we're going to become more and more conscious. And when we're in our little world, in our little isolation bubble, we get to see that we really are the ones that are creating our reality, right? I mean, by our thoughts and by our actions. So I don't know. I mean, I think take advantage of that.
The planet is sort of on spiritual retreat, humanity. And
like all retreats, some people are kicking and screaming, and we all are, right? It's like, I don't like this silent retreat. I didn't sign up for it. I don't know how to
Well,
do
we
a
signed
silent
up for it.
retreat.
So I'm not asking you for an answer because I wouldn't want you to give us an answer, but the best way through this is to be with ourselves and look at how we want to restructure our lives. Is this something?
And I guess not move to restructure.
Oh.
You know, haven't
Let
you
it fall
cleared
apart.
a room out and you had like this whole idea, like I'm going to clear my desk off. I'm cleaning off. I'm going to get organized. I'm going to do it. I'm going to know how I'm running it. And then something else. So the seeds are there. I say, let's not be too in a hurry to shove some seeds in the ground because we like roses and I'm going to plant those. I mean, to let ourselves see ourselves as the fertile soil and get our hands in messy dirt, because it's getting messy, folks. It's getting really messy with fear and uncertainty, and get comfortable there, because there's all kinds of nutrients we came in with, we are embedded with. We're embedded with so much that we've never even had the opportunity to explore or let rise up. You know, we're creations. So if we're on autopilot all the time and some big master's running us, some puppet master called whatever it is, you know, could be it. For me, my puppet masters are not the same as yours probably, but we all, you know, have somebody's pulling the strings, and realize, hey, no, you know what, I'm not attached to any strings right now. I mean, I'm uncertain, but I'm here, I'm a creation, and what's inside me? Because when I tap that power and that source that's already embedded in me, that never came from the outside, that came in with me, that is active and live and breathing me, wow. Then I've got a lot more power even in this time of uncertainty, because I haven't given my power away, more to the fact I've embodied the power I always had.
Right. I had a teacher named Paul Lowe. He's still around. He said, be in the unformed, in the without trying. So it makes sense. It's difficult and scary, but that's what we're being asked to do, to be empty.
And I think the scary part, and that's what we don't quite grasp here, is the scary part is we're still operating on looking to an outer reality to define us and to assign value to us and worth to us. And so the scary thing, which has always been the thing, I think, are one of the things that drive humans, is that they'll find there's nothing inside them. And so, quite to the contrary, you know, we have to test that theory out. And of course, there is so much inside of us, but we've never had to run that experiment. We've never, you know, we've gone to science class and we've had someone tell us and explain to us the chain reactions, but we've just looked at chain reactions back to that idea. We are ground zero. We are the epicenter. We are the one. The one is us. And the one may be in their little apartment, in their little house, and the one may be part of the four of the family and the dog and the cats. But the truth is, we were always part of a greater one. And we always had power, but we just shifted it away or whatever we did. And I'm not trying to say any of us were wrong. I'm not trying to make it wrong. It's just the new opportunity. Get your hands in that soil of yourself and your soul, and it's going to get messy. And you know, you're going to find nutrients there that you never knew you had. Right. You're going to find fertility and creativity that you never knew you possessed. And we each, doing that in our own way, can grow some new garden of that feeds all of us and nourishes all of us and doesn't ask for us to all be, you know, mowed by the same, you know, hedge clippers or whatever. We don't need the master gardener. we're the soil.
With the
Well, I
nutrients.
like that.
Yeah. We'd be surprised what we will find inside ourselves, huh?
Well,
Yeah,
I like how you're talking about fertility and creativity and soil and dirt. That's good.
Well, and think about it. I mean, I'm part of some elderly communities, and and I'm busy setting up this offering for my community of elderly people who are socially isolated. And they're getting on Zoom and they're like, "What? Can I hear?" It's like 30 people talking at the same. What? I can see you, Gladys, but I don't. And they're diving in like in ways they never would, right? And we're all on that green growing edge. We're all being stretched. And what are we finding? The most important thing is not necessarily what I have in my bank account, although I'm watching that, right? We all are. But connecting with people that I love, and connection, and saying, you matter to me. And I mattered to me. I didn't even know I mattered to me, but now I'm going to keep my butt at home because I don't want to get sick and die or whatever, So I don't know. Yeah,
No,
we're soil, we're
it's great.
souls.
I mean, you're just speaking as a sort of download. Everything you're saying, I feel is important for people to hear. It's important for me to hear.
Because it's that human to human. And you know what? At the end of the day, that, and I'm not negating human to nature relationship or anything, but that really is the juice.
Tricia, any last final questions, you think?
No, I think there's a lot there. Maybe we can follow up in a week or so.
Yeah. Could we do this in a week, Catherine?
See what unfolds in the next
hour at the rate it's going, right?
No,
or in the next hour, exactly.
what you've said is enough for us to, or everyone looking at, to think about for a long time, because you're just speaking the truth of what we all are thinking, but you've been able to articulate it. So,
And really, if nothing else, people should understand they are not without resources. They are not without connection. They are not isolated onto themselves. They are not without power. The power of creation and the soul and the being of who we are, it's fine. And if it gets lost, it'll still be fine. I know in my work with people, it goes on. And so that's the not wonderful, let's say, that's the surprising thing about when I talk to hundreds of people who are dead, is that, they're not locked into this box. And so the power of creation, and they're looking outside themselves to be defined. Those outsides are diminished, much like what we're having now. And so that soul that we are, that essence that we are, that isn't, that's solid. That's the soul. That's the soup. And we get to decide what we plant there, what we prune, all kinds of things, and we're in the power seat. We are not, we're embodied with that. We came in as seed pods. We were created as these vibrant, alive, magnificent things. And we get to dance with that as we're locked in our houses and we can't go to our jobs and our favorite coffee shop and our restaurants and intellectualize. I think it's a time for intellectualizing. I think it's a time, the in-between is a time for being. And I know millions of teachers have talked about just being, but now guess what, folks? We really get to do that and find that there's so much inside here and get rid of the toxic thoughts and the toxicity that dwells within each of us and see our light shine, because our lights light up in all the ways. So we're not just sitting in our house doing nothing. We're a bulb. we have opportunity to illuminate ourselves and each other. And I'm really jazzed about that. And I'm horrified as a human being thinking about this, the whole rest of it. So
it's so good. I appreciate it.
It's both.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's exciting that, I mean, I'm excited about this time because it will lead to something beyond the in-between. When we get to the other side, it will be different, and hopefully a better world, a new world, and a happier world for most people, for all of us. So any closing words from you, Tricia von Klanveren?
I do think that this is a time to stay out of fear. I think the fear is also its own virus. And yes, we don't know a lot, but I just have a sense that it's not quite as bad as it's being portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
Not that one shouldn't take all the precautions, but I do think the level of fear, at least as it's being portrayed in the media, is not required.
Right. Yeah.
I think that what also is, it's not just the media. We're activating and coming cozy with the fear we've always had inside us.
Right.
That's, we may have buffered it and tempered it down and kept it at a distance by doing all these other things. But to me, it's not, the media is not able to incite fear that doesn't already live and connect within me. So again, in this time of the in-between, I can look at what are fears that I've carried, that I have in that soil, that, past experiences or whatever they are. So, yeah.
I had a friend named Tricia Powell who used to say, let's turn worry into wonder. So
I love that.
And it's like, let's wonder what is on the other side of this in between. How amazing could that be? We all know how awful it can be, but how amazing. That's what we can create, this vision of something we never thought was possible. And I think let's wonder about that. So.
And you brought up the spiritual retreat. How many people have gone on spiritual retreat and come out with a transformation? So we are transforming.
Mm-hmm.
And the more conscious we are, and the more we're able to do that with grace and hold the fear, honor the fear and acknowledge it. Don't try to shove it away, but know that that's not taking us down. That isn't going to be the end of us, that there's something greater, this timeless soul and who we are as beings that is far greater than what we know. And where we come out and who we come out and who walks out of this fog bank, with clarity, then we have real opportunities to do the work of consciousness that we've all been kind of saying we wanted, but didn't know how to begin.
Well, now we know that we have no choice. So, Catherine, you're still
yes.
readings, and how do people find you?
I don't want them to find me.
Okay, well, forget it then.
I mean, I appreciate it, but I'm not doing more work. I'm not doing client work right now. If they want to find me, they can read the book Beyond Ever After, A Heart-to-Heart Journey Through Death and the Afterlife, which I think is a very salient and timely read right now about the spiritual perspective on loss and love and death. And so, I mean, I'm not looking for business.
No, I get it. Okay.
I'm not open for business. Thank
No.
you. It's a good question, but I love the book, and I will be doing more things. I'm going to get a YouTube channel up with stories and stuff like that. So I'm doing things creatively. I'm using the time creatively.
Let's just have a talk once a week or once every couple of weeks and see where we're at. How far?
Sounds good.
How far in between we still are? We still in between? We can check in. We'll know when we're not in between, I think.
We will know.
Thank you both. I'm Alan Steinfeld.
Yes. Thank you, Alan.
Catherine Weissenberg, Tricia Van
you.
Klanveren. I think this is a really exciting time. So let's see. In your last reading with me, you said bounce, and we're bouncing.
We're bouncing, baby. We are bouncing.
Okay, thank
Like
you.
it or not.
Talk to you
Thank you.
soon. Thanks for watching New Realities, and we'll see you again soon.